Hi guys, welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we'll be creating the view controller files to integrate with the views that we have over here on our storyboards. So if you can remember in our previous lecture, we created these storyboards, these view controllers on our storyboards, and we created this high-level flow to show how the user will transit from the loading screen all the way to the main app, which is the tab bar controller. So if you do not remember, I'm just going to quickly explain one more time. So this is the loading view controller, which is going to check if the user is logged in or not. If the user is logged in, of course, we don't want to bring the user to the onboarding flow, right? We want to bring the user straight into the app itself, which is the tab bar controller. But of course, if the user is logging in for the first time, we want to onboard the user, and therefore we will bring the user to the onboarding screen, which will allow him to perform either a login or a sign up, and upon completion, he will be brought to the tab bar controller, which is the main app. Alright, so let's just get started over here. The first thing I want to do is to remove the view controller over here, which is added by default by Xcode when we first created the project. So I'm just going to hit the delete button on the keyboard and hit enter, and this will deassociate the view controller file over here with this view over here. Alright, I'm going to right click on this view controller, and I'm going to just delete this and move it to trash. Alright, the next thing I want to do is to create a folder over here on travel. On this travel folder, I'm going to select new group, and I'm going to name this as controller. So everything within this folder, this is the place that we're going to store all our controller files. Alright, so just right click on it and let's select new file, and let's select Swift file. Okay, and let's name this as LoadingViewController. Hit the create button, and this file is being created for us. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is to import UIKit, because anything that is view related, we need UIKit, and therefore let's import this UIKit, and let's create a class over here, and I'm going to call this LoadingViewController. Alright. Okay, and this LoadingViewController will inherit UIViewController, so let's put that in. And I'm going to type in the boilerplate code over here, which is view.load, super.view.load, and I'm going to create a function at the bottom. I'm going to call this setup views. So in this setup views function, I'm just going to set the color of the background to maybe orange color. So I'm just going to do it this way. And then I will call the setup views function right in the view.load method. Alright, so let's come over to the main.storyboard and let's connect this loading view controller with this view over here. So let's select this. Okay, before that, let's hit the Command S button to make sure that we save this. And let's click over here, and let's come over here to the fourth button over here, and under custom class we want to go to this class text view and type in loading view controller. So basically what we are doing over here is to associate this view with this loading view controller file over here. So if you can recall, just seconds ago we created this function setup views, and inside we set the views background color to orange. So if I'm to click on this play button to run the app on the simulator, I should be expecting a orange view, okay, which is showing right now. Okay, when this happens, it means that we have integrated the file successfully, which is good. Alright, so the second thing we want to do is to come up with the logic for this loading view controller. So as mentioned previously, the purpose of this loading view controller is to decide whether the user is logged in or not, and depending on whether the user is logged in or not, we will direct the user to the rightful page. Alright, so I'm going to create a function over here, private function, and I'm going to name this show initial view. Alright, show initial view. And then the logic as mentioned is if user is logged in, let's do what? Let's show the main tab bar controller. Alright, if user is not logged in, then we want to show the onboarding controller. Alright, I think that's pretty easy to understand. So I'm going to create a state over here. I'm going to create a a variable over here, private let, and I'm gonna call it is user logged in, and I'm gonna just say that this is false in the meantime. So within this show initial view, I'm going to create the logic. So I'm going to type in if is user logged in, I'm going to perform a set of action, otherwise I'm going to perform another set of action. All right, so if user is logged in, we want to show the main tab bar controller, otherwise we want to show the onboarding controller. So let's tackle this part first. How do we show the onboarding controller? Okay, if you recall in the previous video, we have already created a segue that links the LoadingViewController to the onboarding controller, and we are using a segue to do this linking. And we have also created the name, or rather the identifier for this segue, which we name as show onboarding. So I'm gonna just copy this and come over to the LoadingViewController, and I'm gonna type in this. I'm gonna type in perform segue. And within this identifier, I want to paste this show onboarding identifier over here. All right, and under sender, I'm going to set this as nil. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is that we want to create another function over here right at the top to say, and this function is gonna be view did appear. All right, so super view did appear, and for this animator, I'm just gonna pass in from the top. I'm gonna copy this and just put it right here. Alright, and I'm also going to type in show initial view. Show initial view. Alright, so guys, so let's try to understand what this is happening. What's happening over here. So when view did appear happens, we're going to call this show initial view, and this show initial view function is going to check if user is logged in. Because we have already set this as false, we have actually hard-coded this over here. This is not going to happen because this only happens if user is logged in is true. So we will be expecting the app to bring us to the onboarding page, all right? Because it will actually call line 37, which is to perform this segue. All right, so let's quickly click the play button to launch the simulator, and I should see the onboarding controller being shown. Yep, so you can see there was that very split second of orange where we transited from that screen, which is the loading view controller, to this onboarding screen. So this is successful. All right, so let's handle the part on line 35 if user is logged in. So how do we do that? All right, because if you can see over here, I'm not using a segue. So from this loading view controller to the main tab bar controller, I don't have any arrows that's pointing to that. So how can I do a reference to that and to bring the user to the tab bar controller? This is something that you're probably wondering. So one way we can do that is actually to create an identifier within this tab bar controller. Okay, and the way I do it is to come over here under the custom class, and I'm gonna type in tab, maybe I'll just call it main tab bar controller. All right, so I'm just gonna copy this, and okay, so basically what I've done is that I have named this view. I've created an ID, a storyboard ID, and I'm naming this main tab bar controller. So I can actually use this as a reference to bring the user from the loading view controller all the way to the main tab bar controller. All right, so let's come back to the loading view controller over here, and the way I'm going to do it is this. All right, let me have a look at my notes. All right, so over here, let's come over here and let's do let main tab bar controller equals to UI storyboard. Let's initialize this, and this is going to be main. All right, the name is main because this is the main storyboard, and under bundle we can actually just pass in as nil. All right, so we're gonna do initialize view controller with the identifier over here, and this is the part I'm going to pass it the main tab bar controller. All right, okay, so now what we need to do is that we're gonna set the root view controller as this main tab bar controller, and the way I'm going to do it is actually to get the window from the scene delegate. All right, so let me just type this in, and then you'll see how this works. All right, so let scene delegate, which is this guy over here, the scene delegate, we have the window, so we want to access this window over here. So I'm going to do let Scene Delegate equals to view.window dot window scene dot delegate as Scene Delegate. All right, and then I'm going to do let window equals to Scene Delegate dot window. Can I do that? Oops, not this one. Dot window. All right. So over here, I'm going to do window dot root view controller equals to main tab bar controller. All right. So this piece of code works fine, but it's not the most ideal piece of code because we have a false unwrap over here. So let me just quickly run this, and then we will refactor this after that. Okay, so now I'm just going to set user logged in to true. So what's going to happen is that when I run the app, this block of code is going to execute. This block of code won't be executing, and we should see the main tab bar. All right, so let's just run this very quickly. All right, so as you can see over here, we are in the main tab bar controller. You can't really this is not really obvious over here, but you do see at the bottom there's actually a tab bar, item 1 and item 2. So if I want to make this a bit more apparent, so what I could do is actually to create some kind of delay over here so that we can see the transition a little bit clearer. So what I'm going to do is just to type in dispatch queue.main.async, and I want to select this one, async after with the deadline over here. All right, so let's select this one. Okay, not this one, not the dispatch work item. We want the one that has a block over here. Okay, and in this dispatch time, I'm going to type in dot now plus maybe 2.0. So that means that I'm going to create a delay for 2 seconds. And within this execute block, I'm going to hit the enter button. And I'll copy this show initial view and paste it right inside here. And I believe I do have to type in self over here. And the last thing I want to do is to come to the main.storyboard and just set the activity indicator as animating. All right, so I'm just going to click this checkbox over here that says animating, and I think this should be good to go. Let's go back here and let's run the app again. Alright, so you can see it animates for 2 seconds and then boom, we are in the main tab bar controller. Same thing as well, if we type in false over here and let's run, you will see the app animating for about 2 seconds and then it goes to the onboarding view controller. Alright guys, so this is pretty much the logic that we have, and as mentioned previously, I mentioned that this is not the best way I'll do it because there is an exclamation mark over here, and if you see your code having any form of exclamation mark, is usually not a good thing because what it means is that things could crash because you are performing something called a false unwrapping. So what I would like to do is actually to use either a guard statement or an if-let statement over here. Alright, so let's we can use a if-let statement over here. So what I can do is to type in if let scene delegate equals to view.window.window scene.delegate as, and instead of using the exclamation mark, I'm going to use the question mark over here, and I'm going to open the brackets and close the brackets over here. Alright, and also we can put this window, this line 45 to combine it with line 42, and the way I'm going to do it is to put in a comma over here, and I'm going to just cut this and just put this here. And to make this look a bit neater, I'm going to hit the enter button. Okay, so it looks really neat over here, and now I can cut this and paste it right in here. So we don't have to, we already have unwrap window successfully over here with this if-let statement, and therefore we no longer need this question mark over here. Alright, so let's quickly run this and we should see the same behavior. Alright, this goes to the onboarding screen, I believe. So let's just change this over here to true and run this app. Alright, so guys, I think that's all I have for you in this video. I hope you learned something useful here, and I'll see you in the next one.